Is on the Nom Talk network, you guys. I am your host for tonight, Mike Manalo, and I am here with an esteemed panel of wonderful kaiju experts. We're talking Pacific Rim level kaiju experts here, to talk about one of the biggest and baddest and most successful movies this year, Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire. And I know that I've been told I'm not supposed to say the X, but when you're stupid enough to stick an X in the title, I'm going to say the X. What am I just supposed to say for X-Men 97? Men? I mean, like, that doesn't make any sense. So the X is in there. It's your fault, Warner Brothers and Legendary. I'm calling it Godzilla X Kong, regardless of whatever you want me to call it. Anyways, I'm your host, Mike Manalo. You guys probably have seen me spread my hot air across Basic Binges and the Nom Talk network in the past on other shows and movies, but I'm here with people who are much cooler and much smarter than me. I'm going to have them introduce themselves now, starting with my colleague from the Nerds of Color, Mr. Mike Lee. Go ahead, Mike.
Hello. And I'm ready to, I don't know, smash, stomp, and whatever these kaijus have to do to get through this review.
We'll be smashing there with you, Mike. Are you eating or drinking anything today?
I had a Twix bar, and now I'm having bowl of strawberries. So it's evening out, basically. That's how my meal is going. My dinner's going.
Very well. It sounds super sweet and wonderful. So I love Twix and I love strawberries. I mean, you combine them together, it's a match that's better than Godzilla X Kong. Anyways,
we need to send that to the company. Make a strawberry filling Twix. There you
go. Michael Flores, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, thank you very much. Yes, Mike Flores here. Looking forward to talking some Kong and Godzilla and stuff.
Very good, very good. Are you eating or drinking anything, sir?
I wish I was eating something right now, but I'm not because I don't have any food right now. I have a water here, but unfortunately.
It's all good as long as you got something that you could use to hydrate yourself, because that will come up.
At least say that. I'll stay hydrated at least.
Yeah, that's good. And last but not least, Mr. Alejandro Cowie, how are you, sir?
I'm pretty good. Today I had to edit myself a little bit because I've seen all the Michaels here today. Mike's Mikeyjandro today, so to let you guys know a little gesture. So I have to, balance it out a little bit. I'm having some orange chicken, some fried rice, and some orange juice. So I mean, forgive me for being a fat ass amongst the group. So I'll go ahead and chow down, and hopefully I'll lighten up the conversation a little today because I feel some heat in this room. Shit. So
and it's not just the orange chicken.
Hey.
And for those watching at home, I am drinking a Mountain Dew Baja Blast, the official sponsor of a Fast and Furious type movie like this one. Sorry.
Wow.
No. I love Baja Blast. Celebrate the 20th Baja versary, I guess. I guess it's what it says on the can. But
I love those too. Yeah, they're great.
They're the best. Oh my God, I'm so addicted to them. I wish I had like an IV that I could.
I can't find any in stores. So
yeah, that's how hard it is. Like,
yeah,
I wanted to try it. And I can't find it. So I was like, okay.
I went to Smart and Final and they had 6-packs. I'm looking for a zero because I prefer 0-calorie sodas with less sugar. But I managed to find this, so I was like, I'm gonna snag it before anyone else can, But yeah. Before we get into the high-flying, smashing shenanigans of Kong and Godzilla, I do want to say we are back to fundraising for the Trevor Project with a goal of $200. This is a really amazing organization, and it's worth our time, our effort, and our money, and we definitely want to wholeheartedly support this wonderful project for everyone. So watch the show, please. Feel free to donate, and you're going to be helping out a fantastic cause. So without further ado, let's get started on this. I kind of want to go down the panel and just kind of ask what everyone's popcorn rating is for this. I'm going to start with Mikeyjandro. I think you were the happiest about this right before the call, so I want to know what your popcorn rating was, sir.
4 out of 5, sir. 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I applaud that.
Oh my God. I mean, hold on. I'm trying not to choke on my food.
It's no, hey, no hate here, man. I mean, if it worked for you, if you loved it, then mazel tov. I'm glad somebody did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like you saying it to somebody that has like Pickard flavored milkshake. It's not my thing, but if you like it, go ahead. Just take it.
We respect all opinions here, sir. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. There's nothing that I could say here that doesn't sound condescending. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be. I swear to God. No.
You're good.
All things considered, I really want to dive into the 4 out of 5 because I love that you loved it. Gets me excited when people are excited for this, even if I'm not excited for this. And I think honestly, with a 4 out of 5 rating, maybe you'll help us see something that we missed the first time around. Yeah. So we'll dive into that momentarily. Mike Lee, what was your popcorn score?
I gave it a 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5.
Very generous 3 out of 5.
That's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, I mean it's close to 4. So it's not bad. Mike Flores, what about you, sir?
I'm right in the middle. I gave it a 3.5 out of
3.5 out of 5. You guys are giving it good ratings. Yeah, there's no reason to make fun of Alejandro. It's
I said as I almost choke on my fried rice.
No, we are definitely on a big scale here, guys, sequential scale here, because I'm gonna give this one the harshest score, I think, of all of us, 2.5 out of 5. So we got 2.5, we got 3, 3.5, and we got 4. So yeah. This is a movie whose popcorn rating is all over the place, which makes sense because this movie is all over the place. So
Mike is the unpop kernel, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of want to dive into everybody's expectations of this movie. And let's be honest, I mean, like, this is not a movie that we should be taking seriously. For those of you guys who are unaware or maybe kaiju noobs, we're all fans here. We love, folks that are kind of getting into Godzilla because you're getting into Godzilla and we love that. But you guys will probably know that there's kind of a difference between Toho's Godzilla films, the ones from Japan, such as Godzilla -1 and Shin Godzilla, and then the MonsterVerse movies, which are created by Legendary. And if you were to take a look at it, I mean, it's sort of like looking at Sherlock Holmes. You had at a simultaneous time the Benedict Cumberbatch one, which was artsy and nominated for Emmys, and then you had the Robert Downey Jr. ones with Guy Ritchie's, which had explosions and slow motions and stuff. There's the blockbuster, and then there's a think piece, and there's room for both, which is amazing, But I think all of us on this panel, we probably knew, because this is a Legendary MonsterVerse film, which one to expect out of this one, right? Like, this is more of the blockbuster one than the artsy one. So having said that, that was my expectation for this. This was going to be a dumb, fun blockbuster movie. I want to know everyone else's expectations of it. Mikey Flores, I'm going to start with you. What did you think about before you saw this movie, and what was your expectation going into it?
So I watched the entire MonsterVerse from like chronologically. I'm kind of that guy that watches chronologically, and I watched the Monarch series, and I was kind of like, I don't love the series, but I understand what it is. It's the dumb, kind of the Showa era kind of Godzilla movies, where it's like, there's a little, baby Godzilla and like ridiculous monsters. It's like, it's ridiculous, fun movie. It's supposed to be, at least. So I expected some ridiculousness. Got what made way more than I expected. But yeah, so I was expecting it to be, I didn't expect it to be Godzilla -0. I mean, I knew that going into it. So yeah, and I was kind of also expecting a little bit more King Kong, because he never really got a sequel in the MonsterVerse. So I figured this was kind of like, from what I've been seeing in the trailers, it looked like it would be more of a King Kong story. So yeah, that's what I expected.
And then after seeing it, did it meet those expectations? Because I feel like seeing the movie, that kind of matches your description.
Yeah, it was definitely more of a King Kong story. Godzilla is very, very much the sidekick in this movie, which would offend a lot of Godzilla fans, I'm sure. But I was expecting a King Kong movie, and I got it. The silliness was a little over the top, quite silly, but I gave it a 3.5 because I still expected a fun, crazy kind of like movie, and I kind of got it. I didn't fall asleep. I didn't like get mad at the movie. It was like, all right, that's what I got.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I think when you expect to have fun and you come out having fun, mission accomplished, right? Like the 3.5 is really justified. So I get that. But yeah. Mike Lee, what about you? Expectations before you came into this one?
Um, I had minimal expectations. I had more expectations that leaned towards like a WrestleMania story, basically. And that's what I was hoping for. And you kind of get that, but then they shoehorn in this human element that really doesn't have a place for it, and it just feels kind of weird and strange. It kind of makes the movie drag out longer than it should be. And I was like, okay, now you want me to kind of engage with these characters on an emotional level, and you're giving me nothing with the humans, but just give me more of give me more of the kaiju action. And when you get that, that's really good. It gets really exciting. And then they kind of go back to the human stuff. And it's like, I don't really care for it, but you're trying to make me care. And I don't, which is it? Come on, just pick a lane. That's all I want. And
Yeah.
it ended up making me, I guess, leaning towards the three that I gave it, because it's just like, there are aspects I like about it. And then there's the stuff that comes out of nowhere that I just don't care for it. So yeah.
I agree completely. And I think like that's always been kind of the weakness with the MonsterVerse films is the human element to it. Like we really want to see kaiju smashing each other. So sometimes when it does get into that human element, it definitely tracks from what we're paying to see. So yeah, totally agree with you there. Mikeyjandro, expectations before this, and then did it meet your expectations after you saw it?
Um, well, first off, before I even say this, I haven't seen Godzilla minus one yet on purpose. I've actually want to see a movie that I get excited about in my home when there's no distractions. As much as I like the theater and the purposeful action and the thundering in your chest you feel with actually the vibrations of the studio and so forth, there's something about me being able to focus on a film that I have expectations. Two, I actually, as a kid, enjoyed the Godzilla film we had in the 90s with the whole concept of the soundtrack from Aerosmith. As trashy as that storyline was, in my personal opinion, it brought attention to the actual Godzilla. So I was hyped as a kid. I actually had the little Micro Machine toys for it and stuff like that. So I had the Mecha Godzilla toy, Micro Machine Godzilla with the little Micro Machine like choppers and like Humvees and stuff. And anyway, that being said, I had zero expectation for this film. Anything that I actually come into see advertisements of somebody coming into a possible ape kingdom that reminds me of the Planet of the Apes, but at the same time, they're the size of King Kong. It just spelled disaster for me for what I actually expected this. I saw it, came in. I mean, see the previews. I literally thought it was an alternative form of film being put out on like a secondhand market when I first saw it. So in reality, I expected nothing from it. That being said, the start of the film and so forth that I went up to around a 3 or so. It was stuck at a 3 for a while because of the human aspect of both, like you mentioned, both of you guys. I didn't really want it. It felt like we were trying to find a connection just to bring the humans in there and be like, oh yeah, we truly have power, connection to these things that could sneeze on us or like, and half our plants wiped out. So that being said, I really didn't like that aspect of it. I will say that there are some scenes I'll talk about a little later on that have moved it up to the 4 out of 5. But in reality, I had nothing to expect from this coming into the film. So I really thought it was going to be trash, mainly because I was expecting a lot from Godzilla minus one, and that's something that I have been, my busy life has kept me, too busy to watch it yet. So I'm still excited to see that. So I had an opportunity to see this now, and I figured, hey, why not? But I figured out I might hate it, and I wouldn't, walked out liking it more than I expected.
That's kind of one of the best things actually about going into one of these movies is when you go in with low expectations or no expectations, you actually come out pleasantly surprised. Um, I think for me, because I love the MonsterVerse, I've been on board with this since the Gareth Edwards Godzilla in 2014. I really liked Monarch, actually. I'm probably one of the few that enthusiastically likes it. I think most people are like mixed on it, but I had fun with Monarch. Yeah, it's a fun show. And the Russells are great. So when I came into Godzilla X Kong, I was like, this is, I'm excited for this. I'm really excited for this because Godzilla versus Kong, for as stupid as it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. But I think because I went in with those high expectations, I came out very disappointed, which is kind of the antithesis of where you were, I think, Mikeyjandro. And it's you went in with low and no expectations. You came out having fun. I came in with high expectations, which was my fault probably, and then came out disappointed. So I think that explains the discrepancy between the 2.5 and the 4, So my expectations probably ruined this one. I do want to talk about the story and the plot because that's definitely one of the things that we have to get into. But before I do want to give a shout out to our guys watching from home right now. We got Heartless, we got Q. Guys, we love you guys. Thank you so much for always supporting us and for always being on. You guys are the best and we love you. Heartless, you redeemed Hydrate, so I'm gonna take a sip of this. Everybody go ahead and join me if you want. So appreciate that. You said you're going to be kind and not keep it passing stuff at them. Thank you for that. Not keep tossing stuff at them. And then Q said hi. Hey Q. Love that you guys are joining us. I don't know if you guys have seen the movies. Spoilers, there's going to be spoilers as we're talking about this, so just fair warning. If you don't care about the spoilers at all, and honestly, this isn't bloody Oppenheimer or Shakespeare or anything like that. It doesn't really matter what we spoil. It's all ridiculous and stupid and silly. But if you do care about it, then switch off right now or put us on mute. But yeah, we're going to dive into heavy spoilers in 3, 2, 1. Let's talk about the story of this movie, guys, because if you were to ask me to summarize the plot of this movie, I could not. I have no idea what the hell this movie's about. We're going into the Hollow Earth. There's this ancient civilization with of old Skull Island people who have telekinetic and telepathic powers. They're harnessing gravity to power their technology. There's a prophecy with Kaylee Huddle's character, Gia. There's a sky beam. Kong and Godzilla have to fight this Scar King. I don't even know what the hell is going on in this movie, and it takes about an hour to even get to the Scar King. I was checked out by that point. The only thing that was really redeeming for it was the fact that Kong picked up Shimu and just whacked a bunch of people with him, which was amazing. But then I was like, what the, midway through when Gia's looking at stone paintings of ancient Skull Island people and her in the center glowing like the Avatar, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? What the hell is this movie about? So I got really upset watching this movie. That's how I approach the story. I don't know what you guys thought about the story. Mike Lee, I'm going to start with you. Story, do you want to talk about?
What story? I'm very sorry that there was not hardly any story to this. All I knew was, Congress was fighting over, how they should control the kaijus and everything. It's like, okay, that's interesting. We didn't really get into that in any of the other stuff before. And then they just skipped that. They just okay, whatever, we're going to Hollow Earth now. And we're going to give Kong a new dental implant. It's like, okay, that is an excuse to introduce Dan Stevens' character, Trapper, Tracker or Trapper. I don't even know because
I think it's Trapper. Yeah,
Trapper. Okay, so it's Trapper, and then we're gonna bring back Brian T. Henry in there. It's like, okay, that's cool. He's obviously going to be the humor, that kind of makes this kind of funnier and everything. But I could not tell, like you, I could not tell where this thing was going or why we were going there. I'm just brought along like an unruly kid. I don't want to go, but you're still dragging me on for the ride. So yeah.
I agree. We definitely have to touch on casting in a little bit because there were, you brought up Brian Tyree Henry. I'm like, why the F are you in this? Just because you were in the last one, you had a purpose in the last one, and your purpose was to bring a flask to a robot, control station so that the kid can pour the flask into that control station. That's pretty much it. But at least it was a purpose. I have no idea why he was in this movie, why his character came back. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But Mike Flores, what'd you think about the story for this?
Yeah, what story, right? I think that's the main thing everything's saying. I mean, I understood what the story was. I didn't like it. I thought it was kind of stupid. My whole thing about the story is that basically, I mean, I got the fact that it was like I assumed it would be more of a Godzilla centered story, so I knew that the Gia would be like a center point, a focal point in this. So I also knew that like they would have to talk about the Iwi and all those people. So I get why that's in there. I don't think they handled it well at all because there's a lot of forced exposition about how there's no way they can understand how to read those cave paintings in that like succinct like way of like telling the story. It's like, oh, this is exactly what it means. Like, how do you know that? That's ridiculous. So that's one thing. The story about Godzilla, like it's a very like hardly even their story about him, about why he's like going around the world fighting kaiju and powering up. Very basic. It's not really there. And then the King Kong story is basically him just being lonely. And we all got that. I think that's like out of all the stories that are in there, that's the one that's the most like, okay, you kind of get that. You kind of understand his plight. But if you're not into King Kong, then you don't care. So I mean, they have these three main stories that are like, that are like trying to like fight for time here. And at the end of the day, they don't give either any of the stories enough substance to like, to mean anything. So
Mm-hmm.
you're just stuck like, well, they better have some good kaiju fights because the stories are not meshing, and they have the good fights. So I'll give
Which
them
they
that.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
So
give
that's
them that.
why that's how the story works out for me. And yeah, so yeah.
I agree, and I do have points to that. But before I do, I want to turn it over to Mikeyjandro. Alejandro, as the sole 4 out of 5 here, the highest of the ratings. What do you think of the story? Can you defend it? Defend
See,
it.
see, see. My favorite part of the story is when The Rock and Vin Diesel like fist bumped and they said family is everything. No, no.
Oh,
I mean,
that's the after credit scene. Come on.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
basically it.
Be honest with you, the only reason why this film got a 4 out of 5 for me was the storyline. 4 out of 5, Borderfront 3.5. We'll go there a little later. My main thing about this was the only reason why I'm saying that the story wasn't as unbearable is they finally gave my boy Kong a storyline, an idea where he comes from. It seems a little unbelievable, but let's be real. It's a gigantic freaking gorilla that is the size of the Empire State Building. I'm sorry, about 3 or 4. But and the thing about it is that, I mean, a lot of what we're seeing here is unreal. However, the storyline, I'm going to say it sucked. When it comes to the actual human aspects of it, I was happy they brought stuff with Kong. It felt like, in my opinion, they should have just based it off of Kong. If you looked at it and together and what was going on, because they brought, and I'm not going to spoil, well, I want to exactly spoil what we go ahead of time, but you got Kong, his aspects of it, you got Godzilla, his aspects of it, and you have a third factor. We'll bring this a little later, but the whole point of it is that like you could technically all resonate from Kong's storyline if they focused on it a little bit more and brought these little aspects of it. I believed it would probably make things a little bit more, I'd say, followable. I'm not saying it's going to explain the whole history of that, that lost civilization that's been behind it, and explain how they read the storyline, no matter how obsessed that woman was over there with that actual community and how they disappeared and the one that she loved herself. But like I said, the storyline really, I can't defend it. You know what I mean? The only thing I can tell you right now is I was happy Kong has, some other people out there. I will say it right now. I'm going to just be generalized because I don't want to, go too deep in it. But I mean, realistically speaking, cannot defend it. Worst part of it, come to it. The only redeeming quality is the fact that they attempted to give Kong and not a vague thing. Like, yeah, I understand Skull Island. Yeah, I understand. He might have had areas, they're skulls of his past relatives. But you're like, okay, cool. If Godzilla exists, all these other creatures exist. Are you telling me no fucking relatives of Kong is going to exist? So to me, I was like, all right, cool. That's the only redeeming quality of the storyline there was. So the only thing I'm going to defend of it is Kong's history. Other than that, nah, I can't really do anything.
It's a great thing to defend, actually, though, Alejandro, because when you think about it, the last time we got any semblance of a Kong story was Skull Island. That was in 2017. You know, it's a long time ago. We've basically just the MonsterVerse has very much been Godzilla centric, which for a fan of Godzilla like me, I'm less of a fan of Kong. Maybe that's why I didn't like it as much. But for a Godzilla fan like me, it's great that this is Godzilla centric, but it shortchanges a character that's so important to this universe, and to actually give him some more of a story and more mythology is actually one of the, you know, I hate to use the term, but you know, let's call it what it is. It is a much more redeeming aspect of the storyline than you know I'm giving it credit for sure. So I happy for the Kong fans because they finally got something. They finally got something, you know. That being said, and it kind of echoes all of your sentiments, there is something to be said about simplicity. When we think about the concept of two kaijus just battling each other out, that being all we want to see, we don't need this much story, especially if none of the story that they're giving us is anything compelling. It's all garbage we've seen before. We've seen the ancient prophecies before. We've seen the secret, you know, civilizations before. That was the thing about GVK that I liked over this. GVK has like a stupid story. They're building Mechagodzilla. Godzilla feels the threat. He's acting up as a result of that, and Kong, you know, rises up to try and stop him, and that ensues the conflict. Easy enough. We don't need any more than that. The fact that they're throwing, as Mike Flores said, like 3 or 4 different storylines at us that, you know, aren't cohesive at all. Ugh, it bothered me. It was like, you don't need to be this convoluted for something so goddamn stupid. You know, just give us kaiju fighting each other, guys. Like, come on. Wow enough. You know, as Chris Pratt said in Jurassic World, their dinosaurs, wow enough. Their kaiju, wow enough. We don't need anything more than that. We don't need zero gravity kaiju fights. We don't need like Kong with a mech hand. It felt like they were just trying to make toys, which pissed me off. So I don't know, hovercrafts and whatnot. Anyways, sorry. But yes, glad that Kong actually got a storyline here. Glad that they centered on him because that's something that we don't get often. So really good. I'm going to circle back to casting, but before I do, Timspiration, who is on, hey Tim, how you doing? Has redeemed hydrate, so everybody take another sip. All right. If I may, so casting, I actually have no complaints in casting. I think actually the acting in this movie might, weirdly enough, be one of the stronger aspects of this. I actually really love Dan Stevens in this. He's such a hoot. He's such a trip. He has so much fun with the role. He knows what movie he's in, and you know he's game for it. We've seen him do very serious roles, and here he's just like, you know, I'm gonna have fun, and I'm going to put all this charm and charisma into this character, even though I don't need to, because this is not a movie where the humans need to have personalities. He actually has a personality, and we come out really loving him. I do think Kaylee Hoddle is great as Gia. She's growing into a really good actress. Rebecca Hall's always pretty solid. And Brian Tyree Henry is a good actor, even though I have no idea what he's doing in this movie. So I kind of have to, I think the humans and the actors are superfluous, but I think they're giving a pretty decent show for us. So I want to know what everyone thinks. Alejandro, I'm going to start with you. Casting, any gripes, any call outs that you want to shout out?
That is the weirdest freaking thing of this film. Yeah. If you think of any freaking Godzilla, any Kong thing, it's never known for its acting. It's only known for its like, let's smash them up, good thing. You know, there's some teary moments. Don't get me wrong. I've seen some, you know, situations where some nuclear stuff, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and sacrifice myself. Teary moments. I get that. That's there. Yeah, I'm heartfelt, but I was freaking surprised. Trapper became likable immediately. I don't know why. I was like, yeah, he's a goofy white guy going out there and stupid white things. He's like the Jeff Orwin of that whole King Kong area. He's not. And the crazy thing about him is that his character, which made him likable, was he wasn't trying to be an animal whisperer. He was a fucking kaiju whisperer. He just naturally was there. He went over there. He got it fixed. Got to give Kong a little dental work. They added the mechanical arm. Yeah, the mechanical arm is goofy, but I also got to think though, as powerful as Kong was, I'll explain that later. I'll digress. But anyway, for me, the reason why I'm such a fan of Brian Tyree Henry, I'm a big fan of him because of Atlanta, and I think I've always seen him as an aggressive character. And he's been such an aggressive person, but lately he's been playing these intelligent, smart, diverse roles. And I think that's the reason why I probably, and this is probably what has my sunglasses on with him right now, because realistically, all three of you are right. You're like, okay, what's the point of having you here other than they're trying to bring another connection from the world in a sense. But to me, I guess what kind of kept it on there is I kind of just followed his career-wise, so I'm kind of a fan of him in general. I will agree, inserting him in there was like, okay, are you just a like all-knowing guy of Godzilla? Do you know, like, are you so nerdy that they need your podcast, which you admitted 6 times that they've like denied, the whole dang time. So maybe I think he was just more of I guess the nerdy comic relief and trying to continue to diversity as a role. So I really hadn't complained there, other than the fact that why wasn't anywhere there. What's his name there? You got Julian Denton. That was really funny. Realistically speaking, I can't complain about the cast. I mean, they were who they were. They played the roles well. I was happy with it. And that's the thing that kind of creeped me out about the film, was the fact I was like, the acting's not bad. It's just that you guys are really misfreaking placed, and it's just in my opinion. But that's why I'll keep it there.
No, you hit the head in the nail.
I think,
you hit the nail on the head there, honestly. Mike, what were you gonna say? Mike Lee, sorry.
I can't add any more to that than, honestly, it's just they were given pretty bad material. That's it.
Yeah.
And honestly, you're there for you report on set, and bad material or not, you just got to do it, and you're getting paid to do a job. That's how I see it. And then that's it. They're just there for the check. And if they for like Mikeyjandro said, you for Dan Stevens, he was committed to it. And honestly, some of them didn't feel like they were, but hey, they were able to sell it. So yeah.
And slight shout out there. I just want to RIP because Lance Reddick, and I just want to say, just hearing the voice that I was a little confused at first with as well. So I'll mention that later. But sorry.
Wait, Lance Reddick was in this movie?
Hold on. Whoa. I'll just disregard my comment. I'm gonna tell you, explain a little later why I said that. I'll tell you. I'll explain a little later. Go on.
Okay.
I was like, I love Lance Reddick. I don't want him going down like this. I'm
gonna expand. I'm gonna, but I will explain that a little later. I promise.
Okay. All right. Mikey Flores, casting. What were your thoughts on the cast? Their roles, all of that.
I think I feel I'm like in line with everybody else here. I think the casting is good. Is probably spot on. They just didn't have the material to work with. I thought Rebecca Hall playing the mother figure, and her daughter might be going away. Like, she did well with that.
Yeah,
and like I expected her to do well with it, and she did. The Dan Stevens character, Trapper, I expected to not like that character, especially the way he was introduced. I was like, this is like, I'm gonna hate this character. But credit to him, he makes you like the character. He understands who he's playing, and he brings a lot of energy and a lot of comedy to it. But he doesn't have to be super credible either. But he's just like, he's somewhat, for some reason, he seems credible as a Titan veterinarian. Like, I get that. Like, I understand. I didn't like the idea of that, but I was like, well, if it's gonna be a Titan veterinarian, I guess that's kind of what he would be like, kind of adventurous and kind of like going out there. So like, all right,
true.
Cool. I mean, that works. So I don't have any problems with the acting. I thought the casting was fine. The acting was great. Well, not great, but it was good, But they just weren't, like everyone said, just weren't given enough material or the right material. So
the interesting thing is, in a lot of the other MonsterVerse movies, I'm excluding Monarch here because Monarch, all you get is the cast, right? So it's just they have so much more room to shine, to do their thing. Kurt Russell and Wyatt are brilliant, and all that stuff. But in the 2-hour movies that we'd get, you'd have actors like Millie Bobby Brown, Kyle Chandler, Vera Farmiga, who are fantastic, phenomenal actors, and they're giving really stoic, bland performances. I think King of the Monsters, which admittedly is my favorite of the MonsterVerse because the fights in that are just amazing. Ghidorah versus Godzilla is all those fights are brilliant. Um, it's kind of also a slog because the human stuff isn't compelling at all, and yet they have the most stacked cast of any of these MonsterVerse films. You had Zhang Ziyi, you had Thomas Middleditch, you had Kyle Chandler, you had David Starnhan, you had Sally Hawkins, you had literally everyone, Ken Watanabe, who arguably gives the best performance and the character in this entire franchise. But and that movie really does nothing with them. They don't really do a whole lot of charismatic things. And yet here with this ragtag crew of just Dan Stevens, Rebecca Hall, Kaylee Hoddle, and Brian Tyree Henry, they do a lot more with the little that's given to them than we've really seen in the MonsterVerse thus far. So I'm kind of like, credit where credit's due. I think New Empire might have the most charismatic performances in the MonsterVerse thus far, which is shocking to say the least. But credit where credit's due. Not bad.
Also, just a side note on there. Only reason why I mentioned Lance Reddick. Long story short, I've been following careers. When his passing, there was mentioning his name supposed to be in this actual film. He was cut out from a previous film in 2021 because his character role was supposed to be introduced and so forth as well. So inside this film, he is supposed to have somewhat of appearance, but of course, his passing never happened. Anything in that shape or form. So sorry, I had something stuck in my head.
No. That's
That's
an interesting
fascinating.
tidbit, honestly.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Do you know what he was supposed to play, Alejandro?
Well, to my understanding, he already had a role in Godzilla versus Kong in 2021, and with that role, it was actually cut already. And the small role it was the evacuation of Hong Kong when the battle pursued that was there. To my understanding, a lot of people were asking like, why was he used so much? The director stated that it just didn't work with the storyline. He wanted to use him more. He was easy to use, and hopefully he could use him in the future. And when that statement was said, a lot of fans, when they had Lance Reddick popping up into the Resident Evil universe, popping into the John Wick universe, he was like, what other things have you been thinking about? And he mentioned Kong. So there was an expectation of him being in the films coming in and then this was one of the expectations. So once again, it could be totally under the radar, something on the screen that was just said rumor wise, but it was been kind of in the grapevine for a little bit.
I didn't know that. That's awesome. I'm wondering like if he was supposed to be like kind of the Nick Fury of the MonsterVerse, maybe, like connective tissue, the non Brian Tyree Henry connective tissue of this,
Yeah.
Or he could have been the concierge of the Kaiju Continental in Hong Kong, which would have been fucking amazing. Yeah.
Kong versus Wick. Wick to learn sign language, and all of a sudden, wait, no, I meant Zilla, which is Wick. Meant really, really obnoxiously.
Godzilla steps on his dog, and then it's payback time.
He pulls out a pencil. He's like, "This is made from the bone of."
Oh man, that'd be amazing. Actually, like Godzilla supercharges the pencil like the axe, and then they stab it into,
He just climbs up and. I will make it. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I would pay for that movie. I would pay so much to see that. But yeah. I do want to continue on to directing and cinematography, because I also have notes on that. Surprise, surprise. But before I do, we got a redemption for Stretch. So everybody take 5 seconds. Let's oh god, ow. Oh, my back. Oh gosh, I heard a pop. Yeah, I know. Oh my god. Thank you for redeeming Stretch. Oh, my back feels much better now though. But yeah. So directing and cinematography in this movie, I do think, as with most of the MonsterVerse scenes, there are some really gorgeous shots in this. I think the most gorgeous cinematography that I think exists in the MonsterVerse is probably King of the Monsters. There's the gorgeous, almost oil painting like qualities to seeing Ghidorah or Rodan on top of a volcano as everything is exploding. So I love that. I think this does have some really good imagery. However, the one complaint that I have is, by keeping things, and not that this should be a complaint in a kaiju movie, but keeping things kaiju centric, I stopped thinking about scale. And I think that that's a problem for this movie because every single ape and every single character is the same size as Kong. So at a certain point, when your visual like focal points are characters that are all the same sizes, you really forget that humans are literally like smaller than a toe on Kong. So it lost, the mysticism of a kaiju movie because everything was just, to scale, and it made me think of more Planet of the Apes. But that's my minor nitpick. I want to hear what everybody else thinks. Mike Flores, what about you? Direction and cinematography.
Um, since a lot of this stuff takes place in Hollow Earth, I can see what you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
because there everything is to scale as far as it's concerned with King Kong and all the other kaiju. Um, so when they go back to Earth, to the regular Earth, the surface world, with Godzilla stomping on things, then it's kind of jarring because then he's like destroying the Colosseum and the pyramids and all that stuff. So it's like, oh yeah, that's a kaiju movie. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to look like that. He's supposed to destroy buildings and stuff. So I see what you mean by that. It I think you're right. Like if for a kaiju movie, it was missing that. They spent so much time in Hollow Earth that you miss all the fun destruction. But you do get it. But it's
Mhm.
just it's not as constant as you would expect it to be. Like say, King of Monsters, or, that one was like all destruction. Like they destroyed Boston, they destroyed everything, right? So it's like it made sense there. So it wasn't too distracting for me, but I get I get why it could be a problem for some people. Adam Wingard came back for this one. I think it's great that he came back because I think he gets that it's supposed to be, um at the end of the day, it's supposed to be about Godzilla versus Kong fighting, and they got to get a fight in there. They got to fight more different monsters, and he delivered on that point. I was glad that he came back, and I hope if there is another one, he directs it again. I don't want someone else to like try to like spruce it up or like add their little message behind it. It's like, no, he gets it. It's about monsters like beating each other up and fighting and destroying cities. So I hope he stays on it. I was fine with the way it was shot and directed. Yeah.
He does approach the material with so much enthusiasm. I gotta
Yeah,
give
it's
him.
like he sees it like a Saturday morning cartoon or like
Yeah,
one of the old, Godzilla movies like you watched in on TV back in the day. Like he
yeah,
gets that it's supposed to be that fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
Credit where credit's due. That is a great point, and that's actually very true, and it comes across for sure.
Mhm.
Mike Lee, what about you? Direction and cinematography on this?
I was fine with the direction. I
Mhm.
kind of get that he wanted to explore more of Kong's story, which is why it's so focused on Hollow Earth. And we, I wish he explored the more of the nuances of that because that would have been so much fun to see, how Kong has been, why he's not adept or not adapting to his new world as well. And but when he sees that there is a community or he has a community, um, it didn't seem like it didn't seem very fleshed out. And I think that's mostly due to the script. So that
Mhm.
again, this is what Adam had to work with. So like the cast is just it's the material that he's been given. He's at the mercy of whoever Terry Rosso's script, right? I think Terry.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's
So
right.
that's pretty much where the problem lies. It's just mostly with the script. But I mean, when he gets to those fights, he really just gets to those fights, and it's really really cool to look at. And as Michael was saying, if he does, you know, if he does come back for a third, I kind of want him to lean in more into like the viciousness of these fights, especially like I'm because you guys compared it to Saturday morning cartoon. I'm thinking of a video game. It's like what's
Mhm.
that?
Mhm.
Primal Rage video game. I want to
Oh
see kind
yeah.
of more bloodiness
Rampage.
in this thing. I want to see more because they're introducing more kaiju's into this. Like that's not necessarily part of the Toho universe. So if you introduce more of these kind of vicious kind of kaijus get more bloody into this thing, I think that would be really, really cool to look at.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree, honestly. The other thing is I kind of want him to introduce more iconic kaiju too. Because I think they invented and I misused him. I said Shimo, when I meant Suko, he was using Suko as
Shimo's the
nunchucks.
ice lizard.
But yeah, Shimo's the
But
ice
that's
is
what I
the
was
ice.
talking about, the primal racing, because the primal
Yeah.
rage had like these ice kongs that can breathe ice. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I was like, come
Different
on,
color, like
if
different
you're gonna
color
lean
Kong
into that,
creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
let's go full blown, primal rage and
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I definitely want more like Gamera or something like that. I mean
yeah,
things that we know are,
you could do that
out
too.
there
Yeah,
in Toho,
totally.
but I feel like we haven't seen them in the American Monsterverse yet. I mean, we saw Rodan, Ghidorah, and Mothra, and of course Mothra is
Which is the
prominent
toxic
here.
one? That would be so awesome.
Yeah. There's so much you could do, and he kind of invents his own characters here, which that's fine, Scar King or what have you. Which I didn't care for the villain, honestly. I thought it was a
You
dumb
got a
character,
bone
but
whip. Come on.
yeah, a bone whip.
A bone whip.
But I mean, like, I want more iconic characters that will get me excited, will get me pumped when I see this movie. But yeah. Uh, I guess Alejandro, what about you? Direction, cinematography?
Let's see here. Really quick, just to answer that, Mike. The other Mike's question. The toxic one was called. I had it right here. Hedorah. So Hedorah. I kind of going where I remember that thing because I remember this bubbling looking like
Yeah.
Cthulhu toxic creature. Oh my god, stuck in my head. Reminds me of the Power Ranger creatures. Let's be real. This year actually put me into, like I said, it put me. I'm gonna kind of backpedal here. I would say that I might have to change my rating to a 3.5 out of
Oh
5 out of this.
no.
Reason being is because my main thing about this is visually, I was appealed to. I think that the scenes look great. I thought for the most part, except, excuse my ignorance here, was the premiere of this film, was it 3D?
I think there was a 3D showing.
Okay, because there maybe
Yeah.
have been some showings of videos on there. There were portions where I felt a little off put, like I saw a gorgeous scene and then it unfocused in the background and refocused, and maybe that was the intention of it. But to me, it almost felt like either I was supposed to be watching 3D at times, or I should, or it was more like along the lines of maybe them trying to focus too much on the world around them. I like to agree with all three of you in the regards to the fact that they could have done some excellent shots where at least following, Kong as he walks through with maybe a tree or like a mountain that's obviously there with his foot hitting compared to the, to his what is, I can't, as much as I like this movie, what was the tiny good orange monkey's name?
Suko.
Suko. Okay, so I mean, even with his size, you still really can't tell how big he. Well, I lied. He did come back a little last minute and did his whole like whoopty thing with a axe and helping Kong out. So he was kind of like this, the size of, I'd say, of a small like 10-story building. But it'd been nice if they actually showed that, or did a little bit more. I did enjoy the fact that they showed that Kong was intelligent. So, the last one that we saw, we understood that he could do sign language. And now we understand the fact that he could actually make traps and do things and so forth as well, and create things that he purposely did. And you're like, oh no, Kong's screwed now. And you're like, oh no, he actually did that on purpose. That's fucking hilarious. So, I mean, you see these things here, and I finally, I do appreciate the fact, once again, they make him not look like a dumb monkey that just happened to be supersized. So it was nice to see that they added more to that part there. But my main complaint was a lot of the shots looked out of focus. I don't know if it's just a thing now. It just felt like it kind of been, and it might have been the theater. So that just might have been me. I might have to rewatch it in that sense. Directing wise, let's be real. It's hard to direct something that the storyline seems to be going in circles or in some way confusing. So I don't know what to say about it. I'm not upset about what he did, because it's not like technically, to my understanding, your fault. There's multiple people that comes into puzzle piecing, but let's be real. When it comes to behind the scenes, we don't always know who fully has control of making the film. We want to say the director does. We want to say, director of photography does. We want to say the producers, whatever. But at the same time, we understand that some decisions are made because some decisions are made. But I had no complaints about him specifically. It was more along the visuals, as much as I liked seeing the fleshed out world of this other world that Kong lives in. I enjoyed it to that extent there. I did like Scar. the reason why I enjoyed Scar was I think you had to give Kong an alternative reason to come back. I do. Now we're mentioning it. Oh my God. Now we're mentioning this. It almost seems like something from the fucking Lion King. So we're seeing Simba come back and face Scar, and then you're adding, Scar has an alliance of the fact that I do. And once again, forgive me my lack of knowledge of the creature name at this very moment. But I'm sorry, I thought the competitor for Godzilla, having having a kaiju that created the ice frost, so that consider the first ice age, was kind of cool. That concept was it. And what I found badass though was they made him hey, I was an asshole. This fucker's been controlling me the whole dang time. So those aspects and what they added to certain others, I did appreciate that you just didn't have, hey, he's just a pissy monster that wants to eat everything in existence. Let him destroy things. It was more, hey, he's a pissy monster. Let him live in his area and he won't fuck with you. That's what I saw. And so for me, it was kind of like I did enjoy those aspects of it. And ultimately, it leads up to all three of you mentioning the fact that it was very goofy in a sense, which I got that. I said, all right, cool. If you're going to keep that, I get that. It's two humongous things coming at each other like titans that we make references to so much. So ultimately, the only complaint I would say is where it felt like there were shots that could have signified the size of them, or you kind of better idea of because you did have some excellent fighting scenes that as goofy as seeing Kong being thrown around in 360, coming back with his metal arm full on. That felt like that was supposed to be made for The Rock right there, or something of that nature. So I get that, and I get how that could be goofy, but in a sense, I know you got to add some aspects to it. So ultimately, my only complaints is one of the ones I said. Some things seem to be out of visually, but once again, the directing in general, you got to direct with what you're given. So,
yeah, and to be fair, I mean, like the screenwriters are actually pretty decent screenwriters.
Yes,
I mean, not this
I just looked at it right now,
but their resumes are great. Simon Barrett did Your Next. Your Next is a horror classic, a modern day horror classic. Jeremy Slater was the showrunner of Moon Knight, which was goddamn awesome. I love Moon Knight so much. And then Terry Rossio is a legend. He and Ted Elliott did Shrek, and they're known for these witty sort of movies. Pirates, yeah, Pirates, and then Zorro, all these really, really wonderful movies that I really enjoyed. But I guess sometimes you can have too much of a good thing, and you put three very different screenwriters who are talented in their own ways in a room together, and you get a movie with three very different storylines coming together and forming question mark. I don't know. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. That's just me. I love that people love this movie. I think audiences responded to it really well because, as everyone kind of said, the fights in this movie are pretty fun. I think people do like the idea of zero gravity kaiju fights and the final battle at the end, with everyone versus the Scar King. I think got everyone to their seats, so out of their seats. So, hey, I mean, like, I love that people are loving it. Yeah. That being said, I think we are almost out of time here. And I want to give enough time for everyone to kind of give their outros and let everybody know where you could find them. Our next show, by the way, is going to be Friday. Oh no, wait, sorry. Ella Enchanted we already did. Sorry. Our next show is going to be Wednesday. It is going to be Chef, the 10-year anniversary of Chef, with host Eric Ramirez. Alejandro is coming back, Amanda Yolen, Tony Sanchez, potentially. These are wonderful, amazing human beings talking about a wonderful, amazing movie. So definitely make sure that you tune in for that. That being said, I want to kick it to Mikeyjandro for one last time. Where can everyone find you, Alejandro? Anything that you want to plug?
No, I mean, you guys are great. Thank you for staying in with the name to make me feel included, guys. You can find me in the socials, and if you can't find me here, talking my trash or shenanigans, you can find me on Instagram at IAMCOWIE. That's I am Cowie. Also on let's see, the TikTok, why it's still up around. It's going to be Alejandro.Cowie. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Any final thoughts on Godzilla X Kong?
Realistically, honestly, it comes from a person that was expecting zero expectations of it. It surprisingly was there. I will say it's roughly there, 3.5 out of 4 out of 5. I cannot justify any higher. Reason being is just because it's more than nostalgic feel. of seeing a Kong coming in, Godzilla coming in, the aspects of it. I had a little remnants of the 90s as, growing up as a kid, getting to see these films out here. So it had that little, I would say, that comedic, nostalgic, obnoxious feel. So I like it.
Excellent. Mikey Flores, where can everyone find you?
I'm at Grip C47 on all the socials. And so, yeah, you can find me on there, and then I'll be on here, I'm sure, at some point later this month doing something else. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
And then final thoughts about Godzilla X Kong.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
As far as that goes, listen, I had fun with it. I don't think it's a great movie, but it was fun. And I think going to the theater, sometimes you just kind of want, like, a fun movie that just kind of like you turn your brain off and just kind of like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? So, yeah, no disappointments from me. I'm happy with it, and I hope they continue it in the same vein, but maybe work on the story a little bit more. We'll see. I don't know.
Good call. Seriously. And Mike Lee, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at I am Michael J. Lee on all the socials. And as for my final thoughts, if you're going to, raise the bar a little bit more, just bring an Ultraman. Just do that, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. That was an April Fool's joke, and I got so disappointed when I found out it was.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, somebody.
I stay away from the internet on April Fool's Day for that reason. But yeah, if you're gonna do it, just bring Ultraman in, and we'll have a three-way fight, battle royale to decide it all.
That would break so many box office records too. People would be so down. I would be down for that. I mean, they almost lost me on this one, but I would totally come back if Ultraman was there. Oh, hell yeah. And thank you guys for having me. I've been Mike Manalo. You can find my work at the Nerds of Color, whattowatch.com. That's at LA. I'm at TidyBullBoy182 on Instagram and Twitter, but follow at the Nerds of Color as well for mine and Mike Lee's articles and interviews. Lots of fun stuff there. And as always, tune in to the next Basic Binges on Wednesday, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time. I'm not going to give final thoughts because I want to end on a positive note. So enjoy, take care of each other, have fun, and find your Kong and smash his face in, guys. Take it easy.